So, welcome to the podcast. I have a very special guest today. Her name is Dionne, and she is the founder of DB's Organic. I will let her introduce herself. So, Dionne, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate being on, and it's excited to chat with you. I've been inspired by all of your progress and your career.
Really? Oh my goodness. You're my queen of business, female run business, female owned and operated business. Tell us a little bit about your business and who you are, your family, and your work in your personal life.
Sure. Well, DB's really started out of a dream and an idea that my children had 10 years ago. In fact, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary right now, which is exciting. And it's really been an evolution. I went to school to be a PhD medical scientist, and really the school of hard knocks to learn entrepreneurship and grit and, what it's taken to get to where we are and where we continue to learn every single day. So, I'm really fortunate to have a team around me and a brand and a product that really caught on, that has enabled the growth not only of DB's, but also of our heart and soul and the Dream Launcher and our colorful world and all the things that we stand for. So I feel very fortunate.
So tell us what your products are, because I have them in my freezer and I'm always promoting them to all my neighbors and kids and families at school. So tell us what they are.
So our very first products were popsicles. So they shipped frozen, and we discovered how tough it is in that area and that category. So then in 2016, we had the idea, and we really started the evolution of what became our biggest product and the only thing we make. And we basically started a category in the grocery channel, which is the freeze at home category. And our super fruit freezies came onto the market in early 2017. So they're like a freezie or a freezer pot, except they're the first ones that are all organic and all fruit. So all fruit juice, fruit puree. So you got to shake them up because it's like having a glass of fresh orange juice. You got to shake it up and freeze them. So now nothing is frozen until our customer takes them home and freezes them.
Amazing. And you have some new product development that I think you launched this year. So tell us about that, because that's one of my new favorites.
Innovation is really exciting. So last year we came out with a tropical freezy, and this year we came out with the most delicious creamy gelato pops. And so they're creamy with organic coconut milk, and they're delicious. But they really taste like the flavor, and in fact, the fruit juice inside. So the lime has become almost like a cult favorite. And parents are saying, I hoard the gelato lime because it's so yummy. And so that was one of our innovations. And then we also came out with Italian ice. And that one we've learned we need to tweak a little bit. So that's the thing about learning and testing. And we did a really small launch with both of these. And our gelato pops just have gone crazy. And our Italian ice, we've got to tweak it a bit. So that's part of the learning and what we do and what we love to do. And I think, that's one of the things as a brand is to be honest when something maybe isn't quite right. Does it need to be tweaked or move on, or what do you do? So we're in that phase right now of assessing that.
And why the move to gelato? I know you have some ties with Italy, but was that inspired by your trips there, or just by kind of what the market was asking for?
A few years ago, I was in Mexico, and it was Christmas time, and I was just drinking massive amounts of coconut water. It's got electrolytes. I actually have high blood pressure myself, a genetic just hypertension. And I'm on a medication where you need to have enough electrolytes. And so coconut water was like my staple. And I called our innovation team and I'm like, why do we not have a coconut-based freezy? and we really started pushing ahead with that idea and realizing, okay, we can make it creamy and delicious. And it is very hard to make, but it took a few years to innovate, but it's so delicious and has now become like the first kind of creamy freezy pop.
And I can't wait to try that because I don't think it's in my local grocery stores yet. Is it in Toronto? Or
No,
okay.
It's not in Toronto. So this year we did just a special launch in Canada, just with Thrifties in the West and Avril in Quebec. Two partners that really have a really good niche market, and we could really work with, and we've worked with for a long, long time. And so they have them, but they will be all over Canada and the US next year. And then in the States, they've been at some of our key partners there as well to test out and tweak and adjust and just get everything just right. So soon.
How did you, I'm excited to try it. How did you go from Canada to the US? Do you have any advice on, moving into the US market for new brands that are doing that? I'm part of some food groups and food founder groups, and everyone's kind of asking how and when do you know you're ready to go to the US market?
Yeah, absolutely. And I should actually preface the last one with, we are on Amazon. So you can get gelato pops on Amazon everywhere.
Oh, okay.
So
Good.
in Canada and the US. But the US market is tricky. You really, really need to do your research before you launch into the US market. In Canada, we're a little forgiving in our grocery market. You can go on, you can test things out, and as a new brand, see where you do well, see where you might have to do some tweaks. In the US, you need to go out, and if you don't succeed, you're out quick. Like you've got 2-3 months and you don't prove yourself, out. And so you really need to know your packaging, you need to know your freight, you need to know your operations, your production, and really make sure that you're foolproof. And that you've got, there's a lot more legalities, a lot more things you need to be aware of when you're there. So, I think people should be quite methodical and talk to as many people as they can before they start to export, because you want to do it once and you want to do it intelligently.
Right. Yeah. So going back to Dionne, growing up, what was food and like the culinary scene in your household growing up?
Well, I would call myself neurotic eater. I am very, very, very crazy fussy. And in fact, I always joke that I have the palate of a young child because I love fruits and vegetables. I was an incredibly picky eater growing up. And so I discovered that I'm probably a super taster. So, things that touch my tongue immediately, I have a response. And so even if we make a tiny tweak in something, I'll know. And so I'm kind of one of the first tasters of things.
Does that translate to smell too, or just taste?
Smell too. Yeah. It's a blessing and a curse because it's hard. The fancier the restaurant, the more difficulty I have because I can't eat those special things that have like an acquired taste. It's tougher for me.
And what was mealtime like at your parents' house? Because I'm sure if you're a fussy eater, was it simple like steak and potatoes, or was it your parents trying to give you different flavors every week?
I think my parents tried, but from unfortunately from day one, I was tough. So it was always a relaxed atmosphere, and I was able to eat what I felt I wanted to eat. There was no pressure there, and my parents always thought, well, her taste buds will evolve. Well, that didn't happen. But now I love eating from my garden, like all the herbs. And I love using rosemary and different types of herbs and fruits from the garden, and everything tastes better right from the garden. And so, I love potatoes. They taste different when you pluck them out of the ground and cook them. And so I'm very much a from the earth type of eater. And I love fruits and vegetables that you can pull out yourself. So that's something that I'm quite passionate about, is having my own little garden and herb garden that I cook with.
Have you ever thought of vegetable popsicles? Vegetable freezies?
We've thought about them, but it's interesting. I think they are still a treat. And so if it doesn't serve the job of, and that's, I think, really important when you're developing a product, is what's the job to be done? What's the challenge that you're trying to solve for the consumer? And really, I think freezies are a treat, but they are a healthful treat. They've just got organic, simple fruits. And so if you make them taste too much like a veggie, is it going to be a treat anymore?
No, I don't think my son would like them. No. After soccer, he wants one of the freezies. That's it. He always says, Mommy, your friend's freezies. Mommy, your friend's freezies. The organic ones.
I love it. Oh, yeah, I want to give him a hug.
That. Yeah. Well, maybe soon.
Yeah.
So you travel a lot for work. You're at trade shows all across Canada and US. Do you have any food places you have to stop in, like in your, normal road of trade shows? Is there anywhere that you recommend to anyone kind of visiting some of these key cities that you continuously return to?
Well, it's funny because I love going to cities like New York, where you can go to Italy. And then I love, it's really interesting. I love a lot of foods from different countries. I'll seek out, really good Mexican food or really good Indian food, or amazing Italian. And I pay attention to the Google ratings and what others say, and so I do have my favorites. When we go to Anaheim, there's, I wish I could remember. There's like an Anaheim, not far away from the big Expo West. There's I can't remember what it's called, like an Anaheim Market. I don't know if you've ever been there. They have,
yeah, it was on my list to go to. Yeah, and it's all little like stalls of food.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to put that on my head list.
Yeah, I love to have like delicious food when I travel. That's one of the things that, you love and you savor. Comfort food. Yeah.
And how do you feed your family? Because are your kids still at home? Or they've all moved out? Or what's your,
Well, they've grown up with TVs. And luckily, none of them have been a crazy eater like me. They all eat very healthfully. David was kind of the inspiration. We took him off all artificial colors, flavors, additives, and he still eats really, really well. And I think he's grown up to be this really healthy person, and our daughter as well. And they don't have any of my nuanced eating, luckily. So really it is, I cook whatever they love. And my husband is an amazing cook. He's great. And he and I love making big salads together and sharing salads. And the kids are now each living on their own at university. So
are they asking you for advice on what to cook, or are they experimenting, or just having, microwave dinners?
They are, no, they definitely cook for themselves. They've, sorry, just a second here. I'm just fixing something. They cook for themselves. They use really organic, real ingredients. And I would say that I never had time to really be that mom who stayed home and cooked these big meals. I tried the best I could, but I worked so much. And so really it was a joint effort, and often the whole family would be cooking. I'd be learning from my kids. My kids would be learning from myself. My husband would take part. It was just really a collective in our house. And I think it is to this day. And I would say they're probably better cooks than I am. I'm really good at tasting, and I'm really good at knowing what we should put in our freezies and tasting and testing. And but I would say I would go to them more than they will come to me.
I love it. And now you always talk about your husband, publicly, and how great he has been as a support. What do you think that, what makes your marriage so strong, and how he supported you through your business endeavors? Because I know a lot of strong, successful female owners have had trouble finding partners or keeping partners because, the success and public display of success of women is so new. And how has he been in terms of supporting you all these years and, being a real partner?
He's amazing. There's no doubt we've gone through really hard times and hard times on our marriage, having to travel and be away, a third of the year, at least, if not more than that. And him doing he's a doctor, and he was raising the kids while I was away. So it was really, really hard. There's no question. I mean, we had times where we were like, can we make it? But we did. And I think it's actually strengthened our marriage, and we're best friends, and we tell each other everything, the good, the bad, everything. And I think I have this visual that I learned in my PhD. I did a PhD in clinical psychology and then switched into medical sciences. But I learned this analogy of imagining your partner putting the soles of their feet on your shoulders, and then they help push you up to the top. And it's kind of this visual of reaching for the top. And he's been that for me, and I think I'm that for him in different ways. And so it's a partnership and a friendship. before anything else, and I'm lucky because he's my best friend in the world. And I feel so lucky for that.
I love that.
And he's not intimidated by the fact that, it used to be that I'd get introduced as Dr. Baker's wife, Dionne, and now he gets introduced as Dr. Baker's husband, Steve. So,
good.
And he's never been intimidated by that. And he's very, very close with his mom. He was close with his grandmother, and he's empowered me and been my partner the whole way through.
That's just so amazing. And yeah, what every female entrepreneur wishes for, a supportive
partner,
shoulder to lean on and stand on. I love that. I love that analogy. And then, okay, so back to your PhD. You're doing a PhD. How do you fall into the world of entrepreneurship? Was that always in your family, in your blood? Did you always have side businesses, or we just kind of stumbled into it?
Well, it was funny because my mom, when I finished my PhD, my mom was like, giving up on you, you're crazy. Because, I'd done part of a whole clinical psychology degree and then switched and went into medical sciences, and just kind of, I guess I'm that person who a driver of myself. And I'm still actually trying to teach my own kids about having balance, because I'm not always good at that. And I push myself. But I think, it was interesting. I helped my husband. I started consulting at his clinic on what is in your skincare. Is it toxic? Is it not? When I was doing my degree in clinical toxicology and pharmacology, and learning all about what's in things we eat and things we put on our skin. And it organically grew into a big, successful medical spa, which was the first time I went, oh, my knowledge can actually create a business. And that was honestly the angel investor that helped grow DB's. And it still runs today. We have an amazing nurse that took my position there. And then I went into, the kids had this idea from a moment we had in the kitchen, where I was always looking for treats for the kids, especially for David, who was off all artificial ingredients, and I could never find him delicious treats that were free of everything that DB's is. And the kids, one was making tea and one was making popsicles, and they were arguing, and one said, "Mommy, let's make teasicles." And that's how it all began. And, boom, it was that light bulb, and it kicked off. DB's was born. It was interesting because we noticed that when he would have things with artificial colors, artificial flavors, artificial sweeteners, or lots of sugar in something, that he'd really react to it behaviorally and really became aggressive and would act out. And we did some research, and as scientists, we looked into, okay, what could we do to help him out, give him his best chance and let him be his best self. And we took him off all artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners, everything. He really was eating from the earth. And it was really, really hard initially. He would hang off the cupboards trying to get at things. And but then he became super healthy. And that's really why I started DB's, was I saw the difference in how he experienced life. And I thought, wow, wouldn't this be amazing to give other kids this opportunity and this option? And there was a lot of intentionality in the products that we produce, that they should be for everybody. Allergen free, everything free, simple, short ingredient list, and accessible. So not very expensive. And then, on the backside was, what can I teach my kids about growing a company with a soul and a foundation of doing business for good? And that's where our Dream Launcher and our Colorful World was really born as well.
Can you tell us more about Dream Launcher and a Colorful World? Because those are new additions in the last year or two, I think, which are making waves in the industry.
Yeah, and I'm excited about that, because our Colorful World really came to be this year. It was the first, brand refresh we did. And it was all about, okay, what is in my heart and soul and what should come out? Dream Launcher started from the initial idea of when I started DB's, and I remember biking around Stanley Park with my husband, and he said, okay, if you're going to do this, what's it going to be about for you? And I put a lot of thought into that. And I had this visual of one day he can step back from what he's doing as an ophthalmologist and volunteer his talent and his service to missions like Orbis and go around the world to help the blind see again, or to take a tumor out from someone's eye and they may have never been able to see, or lift an eyelid that is permanently stuck down and lift it up so that the person can maybe see their grandkids for the first time. And so I always envisioned that one day when he's able to do that, that's when DBs has arrived. And then that spilled over into our dream launcher. And if anyone on the team feels they have a dream that they really want to bring to life, or that not even a dream, but just, I tell the story of Eddie calling me and saying my cousin's 13-year-old daughter was diagnosed with a terrible cancer and had weeks or months to live. And I was like, oh God, Eddie, this is why DB's Dream Launcher is here. This is the platform, because I feel like I need to do something. And the dream was to give her a birthday party. That was what she wanted, and rent out the movie theater in Guelph, Ontario. And the movie theater then rented a limousine, and they picked up all her friends. And it was the celebration of her life, and the last time she was with all her friends before she passed away. And, we also have Brian, who supports the Humane Society. And he is a singer along with his daughter, and their band raises money for the Humane Society, and our Dream Launcher supports that. And then Becky wants to support clean oceans and fisheries, and then also she's now supporting organic and regenerative farming in Victoria. And so it's not a must that everybody must do this, but it's there, and we will support whatever kind of goal people have in mind through our Dream Launcher. And then our Rainbow World is a beautiful salute to those who are empowered and courageous enough to live their authentic self. And at DB's, we want them to everyone, to feel that they can be in a place where they can truly be who they are. And we encourage them to be who they are. It doesn't matter your background, your race, your gender, your anything about like your identification, your color, everything is not only welcomed here, it's cherished. And that we support children and families to become their true authentic selves and live an authentic life, and kind of really counter that darkness that we see with a rainbow that can shine through the dark clouds, because there is a lot of darkness in our world today. So yeah, I just felt like I have to do something to counter that.
Amazing. And I think what you've learned from running a business and running your employees has got you to this place, or as I'm assuming that's what brought you here. But that brings me to my next question is what have you learned running your business, and what have your staff taught you? Because like you talk about these wonderful employees like Eddie, who's been with you from the start. What have you learned from them, and what have you learned about yourself?
Honestly, I learn every single day. I learn from the interns who come to do practicums at DB's. I learn from Brian, who came over from Cliff Bar. I learned from Lisa, who came from a number of brands, including a number of years at Annie's. And I learned from some of our team that came over from Smart Suites. And I learned from students and from people on our operations and production team whose voice needs to be heard and needs to be at the table, and our administrators. And so I don't think there's anyone that I haven't and I continue to learn from. In fact, I really see myself as a lifelong learner, and I love to share the knowledge that I gained. But I would say that I don't think until I take my last breath will I stop learning in life, and learning from every single person on our team.
And I personally want to thank you, because you've taught me a lot and given me a lot of advice, and little chats here and there and questions on text, just little snippets of advice. And I love that you are happy for other people to succeed and to share your knowledge down. And I feel like you've taught me to do the same, because I've made so many mistakes, and now I'm helping younger entrepreneurs, navigate and help them prevent them from making those mistakes. And they can text me and ask questions like you said I could to you. So I love that we're all kind of passing it down.
Yeah, exactly. We're paying it forward, passing it down, and sharing what we learn, because we all go through times that are dark and hard. And I definitely went through them, and I still go through them sometimes. and even just being a mom and your kids moving out, and how does that change your life? To the places where, oh my God, something horrific happens, or, someone opens up a freezy and that freezy's gone bad. It's rare, but occasionally it happens. And so, you have to be humble enough to kind of hear the challenges and maybe have people you can lean on, and be there for people to lean on. Karen from Bloom texted me yesterday and asked me, hey, what do you think of this? And I love that. I love sharing knowledge. Feels good. Maybe it's like selfish, right? But it feels good.
It does feel good. Helping others feels good. Yeah,
it does.
So what kind of advice do you have for young entrepreneurs starting in the food industry, either generic or specific to the food industry?
Yeah, I think that no matter how comfortable you are networking or not comfortable, because sometimes I kind of go, oh God, I got to go out and network. It's so tough. And I come back to a hotel room and I'm like, oh, exhausted. But put yourself out there and meet people and talk to people, and don't be shy to call on somebody. And the worst answer you're going to hear is, I can't talk now, but maybe in a few months I could talk. Could we set something up? Just put yourself out there and connect with as many people as you can. And those mentors, they're probably going to change over time as your business evolves and changes and grows. And so always, I'm always looking for mentors. And one of my most recent mentors, Bill Shen, is in the US, and he comes from the finance world and private equity. And I've asked him a million questions, and he joined our board of advisors. And, there's so many people that, and it's not just about, because I need to learn private equity. That's not it at all. It's about his knowledge of the space and how things work from a different perspective. So I think, though, surround yourself with people that you can chat with and learn from, who don't have an attitude. Because the attitude parts are really hard.
Not necessary, right? Just kind people
Absolutely.
that want to be around you in your circle of, goodness.
Exactly.
What have been the best parts and worst parts of running a business?
I think the best parts are the people, and learning and putting together a team and surrounding yourself with these really brilliant minds. And when they say things and you get tingles or your brain lights up like, wow, what a cool idea. That's really cool. Seeing your product in, I can fly here and go to Florida or Texas and see my product on a shelf, or just come upon it when I'm grocery shopping in California somewhere, is very, very cool. And seeing my kids evolve and never ever having to have asked them to do homework and evolve into these independent humans, because they've had to learn to be independent, having two working parents. And I think the worst part is probably some of the loneliness, and the feeling alone, and even shame if something goes wrong. You try and make everything go as right as possible, but still things go wrong, or challenges come up, or mistakes happen. And, as a founder, with any mistake, you blame yourself a little bit. And that's hard, and it's lonely. It'll probably always be a little bit lonely, because you feel like you have to own it and manage it.
Yeah, I feel that way. And also, people think you're one way because of social media, but you are still a human being behind that photo. It all looks rosy on social media, but there's a lot of tough times. But you're not going to post that. You're not going to post the losses and the struggles, because that's, nobody wants to see that, first of all, and you don't want to post that. So it is lonely sharing honestly and being vulnerable. And my other question on top of that is, I feel like since you started, I'm positioning wrong. Do you feel that since you've started, that there's been a greater amount of female leaders kind of leading with empathy and vulnerability? Because I've seen in only the short few years that I've been in the industry, more and more females gathering and being at these conferences and shows and trade shows and kind of connecting and being a force. Whereas before it was kind of a lonely, maybe when you started, were you the only person that was a female-owned brand in this space? So
it's definitely evolving. When I had the idea in 2012, and I went to the bank, And they said, there's no money here for you. Like you've got a successful husband. Why are you doing this? And go home and bake something. Like, just don't worry about this. And I kind of left, and I remember feeling like kind of below a doormat and kind of like sauntered out of there thinking, God, and feeling very alone. And then Barbara Mowat, who is the founder of Grow Your Biz, was like, what? And they said, what? And she actually called like the director for BC and his name was Mike. And he was like, are you kidding me? And I ended up getting an apology, and they were our first supporters. And then EDC came along. But yeah, I absolutely felt very much alone. It's funny because I just put up a post about, I was asked to sit on a panel at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas next year. And I was saying, like, we have paved a path. I didn't know I was paving a path because honestly, in academia, there were a lot of women, and I didn't know that it was a thing, that not many female founders existed in the business world when I started. I was naive to that, and I quickly learned. I mean, I remember hearing when we were looking at financing, and now, we're still at the place where 80% of the company is owned by friends, family, and our team. And our family. So it's just, or I should say actually 80% is by the team and our family. And then 20% is friends and family above that. But, when I went out early days to raise money, I remember a fellow saying, well, if you got a CEO in here who knows what he's doing, then I'd look at it. And I looked at Becky, who was with me, and I said, did I just hear that? Like, what am I, like chopped liver? Have I done nothing?
Oh my gosh.
And it's continued, and I've heard stuff lately. I did a presentation on someone thought, I like your little presentation, because we're looking at raising capital, and that looked good. I was thinking, there's an unconscious bias, unfortunately, that still exists. Raising capital, whether you're male or female, is hard. Raising capital for someone of color is even harder, a female of color, even harder than I had. But raising funds as a female founder, I think that, I try and help the LGBTQ community, because that's tough. And people of different backgrounds and women of color to come and let's talk about how we could do this. Or we invest ourselves behind founders as well, and it's humbling. And I think the raising capital part is sometimes the toughest when you're trying to do that. But on the other hand, because of that, we're still a huge majority shareholder because it was so tough, and refused to kind of give up on things early days.
Do you have any, anecdotes or funny sentences you start off with when you're going to these meetings to be like, well, I'm not a man in a suit? Or do you have anything that kind of, raises that unconscious bias? Or
I've learned to say, like, when people will say, I've said, like, looking for a lead investor, and they're like, oh, well, this isn't quite a lead. And I'm like, well, in my definition, it's a lead because I'm doing things differently. This is what a lead means to me. And I'm setting a new path, and it might be a different way, but I'm okay with it. And if you're okay with it, I'm good with it. If you're not, then let's talk about it. And that's okay. But I'm very upfront and very willing to talk. And I think when I feel like there's like a barrier of doubt, like, oh my God, if they knew the level of integrity that drives me, I don't think they'd ever doubt it. And in fact, if you look at the success rate of female founders in the businesses we build, it is markedly higher success rate than, I hate to say it, but than non-female founders, or than founders who are your typical previous historic founders.
So I could just start off with like the WeBank stats.
The WeBank stats are, they blow me away. And now it's funny enough, I won't invest in someone unless they're from a minority group or they're a female founder. That's just kind of goes without saying now.
Amazing. I love that. So let's move on to food again. We talk about your love of food, well, your particularities with food, but tell us about a fantastic meal you've had recently, where it was, what did you eat? I don't know if you've done any summer travels or travels lately.
Well, Steve and I were just, and Jocelyn, our daughter, we were in Whistler. And honestly, my favorite meal was this giant salad we made that was like, had everything in it. And I actually sauteed chickpeas. I had soaked them and then they were moist. And then I sauteed them with some delicious Sicilian olive oil that we got from a fellow who has a farm in Palermo, and he manages our shipping out of Sicily. He sent us olive oil from his farm, and I was using that. I sauteed these, and I added garlic and onion, sweet onion, Walla Walla onions, and put those in the salad. And I had like panko, crispy panko in there and seeds, and it was just so delicious. And then I made my own dressing out of that olive oil and balsamic, and plus the Nonna Pia's delicious rosemary balsamic and a little bit of maple syrup. It was delicious.
That sounds amazing. What's in your garden? What are you growing this summer?
I'm growing, well, it's funny, our deck is literally falling down. This is part of what happens when you're the founder and you don't have time to take care of your own home. But so I can't grow too much at the moment, but I've got rosemary, I've got thyme, oregano, basil, what's the other one that I use with squash, butternut squash, and sage, and potatoes and strawberries and tomatoes, cucumbers, cilantro.
Wow,
lots.
This is amazing. You got like a farm boy in your backyard.
Yeah, that's right.
Amazing.
Yeah, I just love what's all, like literally we've got a fairly big property that's full of nature, but then off my deck I put everything that I want to eat and try and
Do you
go
have
and
it
grab
caged in? Do you have the raccoon problem over there like we do?
Gosh, we've got raccoons, we've got deer. Deer ate just half of our tomato plants.
Oh, so it's
and,
not
bunnies.
caged in?
It is caged in, and they still get in. It's tough. We need to really, really cage it in. It's really hard. I'm like, do I want to eat a potato that a rabbit ate half of it? Oh, we also have carrots and kale, but yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Have you got a garden?
I try every year, and then I swear every year I'm not going to do it again because we don't get enough sun. So we can grow all the herbs, but I try and grow strawberries and tomatoes, which the raccoons eat, the rabbits eat, the squirrels not. And yesterday we actually had a raccoon come into our kitchen and prance on our kitchen counter, and we had to shoo it out. So they're so nonchalant and brave. They just come inside now. So every year I'm like, I'm getting fake plants for out here, and then every year I buy strawberries and tomatoes, and so I keep trying.
It's so hard to turn them down, right? We once had a peacock that I discovered was eating all our strawberries.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think it was flying over and living in our neighbor's yard, and he just kind of looked over at us like, hey, what do you want? I'm going over to eat my strawberries. I'm like, you're the one.
Can you move out of the way, please? Yeah. Well, yeah, that's like the raccoon. He was just looking at us, and we're like, shoo, shoo. And he just was like, he's like,
it's my kitchen.
Yeah, he jumped into Julian's bowl of raspberries, so he left red footprints all along the kitchen. And
no. God.
And
crazy.
We called the city, and they were like, yeah, just try and shoo him out your door. We're like, okay. So now we can't keep the door open anymore. But
oh no. Oh God.
Anyway. Let's move on to non-raccoon questions. But anyone that you admire in the food world, anyone that's helped you, or anyone that you love in terms of what they're doing in the food space, or even cookbook authors or people that you kind of have on your coffee table, or both?
Yeah. You. I mean, I admire you. I admire there's so many people in our group. Aisha from Herbaland, she's a wonderful human. I think you and I took a picture with her together.
She's lovely. Yeah,
she is lovely. And Karen from Bloom, and there's so many that, I just, I'm just looking up like some of the people that I love and support. There's so many, and I learn from our group all the time. And so what I say, who are some of the people that I admire? Early days, it was, Nature's Path really inspired kind of our philosophy, not from who they are today, but from like early days. So I grew up very close to Gurdeep. He was one of the kids in the family, and in West Point Grey, and grew up as a hippie and going to all the hippie restaurants and eating in all the natural restaurants in the 70s and 80s, and really leaving that organic legacy and footprint. And that's always inspired me since my early days growing up with hippie parents who, I learned from. And I think Nature's Path has grown that way. And I think DB's is inspired to grow the same way as well. So, yeah, I've got a lot of people that inspire me.
What's next? What's after DB's? Are you going to do something completely different or retire, or not now, but I'm saying what would you love to do if you weren't running DB's?
It's funny because the evolution, I used to have to take part in every single thing. And now I'm at the higher level of the business, really looking at the bigger picture and how are we putting together our financial structure? What are we, overseeing kind of the innovation side? What are we doing on that front? And looking at, with Izette, who runs our operations and production, and what are we doing? I love that, but I'm able to do it now at a high level. And so honestly, I'm focused on the now, and I love being at this higher level, overseeing things position. So I'm enjoying this, and I'm enjoying talking, and I'm enjoying sharing experiences and mentoring. And I'm also looking forward to growing more around the monitor and our colorful world. So I'm curious where my next path will go. And I would say it's curiosity and continue to love learning. Mm-hmm. And so we'll see where that goes and where that takes me.
And I would say keep speaking, because I've seen you speak at so many conferences and shows and panels. And every time I learn something new, and every time I get a bit of a goosebump and almost a tear in my eyes. So I think you are inspiring a whole generation of female entrepreneurs to keep going and keep pushing and keep raising families and kind of juggling both. Because, when I started, someone said, you can't do both. You can't have a family, you can't run a business. You can't be a female entrepreneur with a family. And I was like, why not? And people like you who, are, years ahead of me and have done it successfully need to see that, because it's possible, and it takes sacrifice and hard work. And I think that every time I hear you speak, I'm like, okay, I'm still doing the right thing, because, it's easy to just throw your hands up and give up when there's a bump in the road, but it's a lot of perseverance and yeah, so thank you for that.
And I think that's an important point, because I remember being so worried that what am I doing to my kids by traveling all the time and having to leave to do my work. And I remember coming back and seeing David, my son, ironing his shirt for school the next day. And I thought, wow. And now being on the other side of it and sharing with other families who are raising kids, and what's that going to do? And I can say to them, you're going to have amazing kids. You're going to have independent kids. You're going to have kids that know how to follow their dream and be their real authentic self. Yeah. And I think that's the result. And so I think you're right, like talking, and I love sharing those experiences. So I think it's important for us as parents to know there's support out there.
When I travel now, Julian's like, Mommy, you're selling Julian's cookies. I'm like, I'm doing this all for you. And he loves he's not crying that I'm gone. He's excited to see me, and he misses me, but he understands now that when I'm traveling, it's for us and for our family and for him.
Remind me, how old is he again?
He just turned 5. He's 5.
I was going to say, I think he's 4, but he just turned 5. Wow.
He's a sassy little 5-year-old. Yes.
Oh, so he'll be running into kindergarten?
Yes.
I love it.
SK.
Senior kindergarten.
Senior kindergarten. Yes. He's in the big group now. And me time. How does Dionne recharge? What do you do for me time? Because I know that the best thing for me is to have a day by myself or 2 days by myself to recharge and really connect and kind of clear my head. What do you do as a recharge day?
I think for myself, and I'm always working on balance, to be honest. I'm not good with that. Yeah, but I'm going for walks, especially near an ocean or in nature, and just reminding myself to take a deep breath, because we shallow breathe all the time, right? We're just like, and so just saying, just take a breath here, just stop, smell the air, smell the cedar, smell the rose, smell the ocean. That's the recharge place for me, is moving and just trying to be in that moment, and even at like the top of the breath, kind of going, like even taking an extra breath, Sometimes
the first one is so shallow, you're like, am I even doing this right?
I know, right? You just need to like actually get into the synapses in our brain and the depth of the oxygenation into our lungs. So that's, for me, those are like the recharge moments.
I love it. Thank you. I'm so happy that we got to chat. I know you've been busy with all of these new projects, and I want to thank you for your time and for being on the podcast. And I'm giving you a virtual hug, but hopefully I'll see you in one of the next food industry events to give you a proper hug. But thanks for coming on the show. And if you have anything to say before you leave to any of our listeners.
Well, I want to give you a virtual hug, and just to say that I love what you're doing, and Eva doing these podcasts and sharing your experiences, and then sharing the other female founders or other founders. It's amazing, and that's a beautiful thing. So I'm so glad, and I feel so much gratitude that our paths crossed and that we're so connected.
Me too. And to me, this is so much fun, because the people that I interview are people that I love and like want to talk to and want to know more about. So I have a full solid hour of their attention to ask them all the questions and get to know them more. So thanks for being on the show, and have a great Friday afternoon.